2, 3. We're recording. Hey, welcome back to another episode of these crazy people that just eat meat and can't shut up about it. We're just talking about it over and over and over again, endlessly, video after video after video. But nonetheless, every video is better and more unique than the one before it. Today, we've got a couple of special guests that haven't been on with us before, and then quite a few familiar faces. So we've got Bella, also known as Steak and Butter Gal, and we got Janice Lum with us. Do you have a handle, Janice? You got a little moniker you go by or anything?
Confident Carnivore.
Confident Carnivore.
I like that.
I love it. I love it.
You got your own swag on. That's brave. I wish I was that together. We better ask Keith how long it's going to take to get us some t-shirts. We were talking to a guy.
I should have worn my Meat Militia t-shirt or the military uniform or something. I'm sat here in this See the Concert t-shirt instead.
You got more props than anybody. What's the deal, Bart?
I've got more what, sir?
Props.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
goodness. Yeah.
Is the props department on vacation over there at your production studio or what?
But if I could move the camera around, I'd show you. I've got my closet full of uniforms and t-shirts and stuff there and ready to go. And I just thought today, no, we'll just be
a civilian. You're on leave. Yeah. So you're a civilian today.
Exactly, and you're lucky that I actually bothered to get dressed at all. I could have been sat here naked.
Well, that being said, Ray hardly ever wears pants. So.
Don't stand up, Ray. Don't stand up.
I'm wearing something.
Don't stand up. Don't prove it.
Yeah, don't stand up, Ray. And Justin put a t-shirt on, so at least he's got a shirt on.
Right, and no collar this time.
No collar.
Nice.
Right. It's good to see you back, Emily.
I wish we mean a collar with studs on it. A dog collar is what we're talking about there for those that aren't sure.
Sometimes Justin wears a dog collar. All right, then. So since we've got started already having some fun here, let's start with Bella telling us a little bit about her story and what she does. And then maybe we'll move on over to Janice and hear her story.
Okay, so I am a musician. And I basically was a vegan for 6 years. And fast forward to year 5, year 4.5, I lost my period. And I started going through a lot of just strange and horrid symptoms and issues. I have always battled with eczema and psoriasis my whole life since I was a kid, like going to sleep, itching, waking up bloody. And I would be prescribed all these ointments and creams. And those were the only things that kind of kept it at bay. But while vegan, at first it got better. And I do credit that to taking out all of the processed foods, the junks, the sugars, because I did eat whole foods plant-based. But I lost my period, my hormones were wrecked, and my acne, eczema just started getting worse. So by the 6th year, I did like a full panel blood test, and my doctor sat me down when the results were out. She said, "You are so deficient in vitamin D. Like I have never seen a patient this low. I think my number was 7." And yeah, she was like, you either have to seriously up your supplements or eat some meat. Like seriously, just eat meat, And I was still a very proud vegan. So it was hard. But I went home immediately. I researched vegans eating meat again because I was just so scared. And the first thing that popped up was Joe Rogan's podcast episode with I think either Sean Baker or I think it was Sean because he was one of the earliest carnivores that he invited, right? But I watched that. I was very intrigued. And I also watched a bunch of these vegans who converted to carnivore. There weren't many at that time, but that kind of piked my interest. And I just went straight into carnivore after doing enough research on it.
Excellent.
And then what were your results?
So my first month, I had a lot of digestion issues, just lots of loose stools all the time. But I immediately had this huge appetite. Like I was so hungry all the time. I ate up to like 5 pounds of meat each day. I was Oh yeah, yeah. I am tall, but I also have always had a big appetite. But I would eat like 5 pounds of meat or up to like 48 eggs in one day.
Well, if you
But
don't mind me asking,
Amazing.
roughly how tall and
Amazing.
how much do you weigh?
thanks. Oh, I'm 5'10" and I
Okay.
weigh 128 last time I checked.
How long
But
were you eating 5 pounds of meat for?
what,
Like, how long did it take you? How
Oh,
long were you eating that amount of meat for?
the first month I felt like I was eating that much meat pretty much every day.
Okay, so a good
And-
month. Wow.
Oh yeah. But it was like the first 6 months, I just felt like I was eating all the time.
Okay.
Never did I eat that much before. And I also didn't care about my weight anymore. I threw away my scale. So clearly I was gaining weight because my clothes were not fitting. But I gained a lot of weight and I was just focusing on eating. But the first 6 months, I didn't really see any like great improvements yet. The only thing that I did see was my skin was getting better. My acne breakouts were decreasing quite a lot. My eczema was getting better after a couple months. But my period did come back eventually. Yeah. Those are the like best things.
How about overall like energy with the
Yeah, I had a lot of days where I just wanted to sleep the whole day,
Okay.
and I think that's normal with adaptation. Like especially since I was vegan, I
Yeah.
didn't really digest all of these foods, and I was always running to the toilet, so I was pretty fatigued. But I felt better and better after like the first 2 months. I would say the first 2 months were the most difficult for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your body was healing, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes, it
Definitely.
was.
What meats did you allow? Was there anything you didn't allow at the first, or did you just do any meats?
Yeah, so I was also very inspired by Michaela Peterson and the fact that she also had some serious autoimmune issues. So I kind of did her protocol where it was just meat and water. She does beef salt water, right? So I didn't really have that craving for salt. So I kind of just stuck to beef, water, and a lot of butter and eggs if I felt like it. So the first time period, like few weeks, it was literally just 90% beef.
Any organs?
Not yet, not until
Mhm.
half a year later.
Okay. That's I feel like that's pretty typical,
Yeah,
First
it was
people want to
okay.
gauge eating meat all the time, and then it's like, oh, I should maybe do some organs, or let me try it next.
Yeah.
I'm only asking just because of, especially with B12, from going from a vegan to carnivore.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of organs now.
Did you get
Yes.
your vitamin D levels checked again?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, they're at 30 now, which is still not ideal. I'm still working on it.
That's
But
great.
You're
during
also from New York.
the winter time, it's hard.
You're gonna come down to Southern California and soak up some rays.
You're right.
So wait,
sorry. So it does seem like, because the thing with the vegans is always like, oh, they did it wrong. But I heard you say that you were doing your supplements with your vegan, and you sound like a person that thoroughly, you look before you leap, more or less, and you do your research. You make sure, like, okay, here are the pitfalls. Here where things could go sour, but here's how to mitigate it.
Mhm.
So were you like doing all the supplements? Like there was no you did it wrong kind of thing with vegan. Like you did it like as healthy as they say or whatever.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
did you have kind of like a vegan guru or people you were following?
Yeah, the person that kind of convinced me was Freely, and I did, what she preached. I mean, I was a senior in high school, so the biggest reason for me to go vegan was for vanity reasons. And like nowadays, that wouldn't be my driving motivation. But she looked amazing and she had all these abs on her body. And she was saying, okay, I eat bananas until 4. Then after 4, I eat cooked starches and veggies. So I did that. And I really did the cleanest, whole foods, organic, plant-based way of eating. However, the supplements, I mostly just supplemented with nutritional yeast. So I think my only mistake there was not doing actual supplements, but I never really was a fan of taking pills, capsules, and I still am not. But I do think vegan diet, just whole foods, plant-based, it's just not enough. It's not sustainable.
Now, do you take any supplements now?
I don't. The only supplement I consider is amazing is like raw liver.
Yes. Amen to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, raw liver is way better than cooked liver.
Yes, I agree.
So
Of
your
course.
vitamin D level, did it go up strictly on just doing all meat, or did you do some sunning also or anything like that?
Yeah, last summer I did quite a lot of research in whether or not I should wear sunscreen because a lot of the carnivores I was befriending was telling me, don't wear sunscreen. Okay. If you're so low in vitamin D, go out in the sun and don't wear any SPF. So I did my research. I was convinced and I just soaked in the sun every single day when I was back at home in LA. And that's when it really went up. So I do think sunlight is pretty important if you really like dramatically want to raise your vitamin D.
Definitely.
Yeah, I used to be really sensitive to the sun. I used to burn really easy.
Yeah.
And I had, I wore sunscreen. I'd get sick if I was out in the sun too long. I'd start feeling queasy and disoriented sometimes. And then when I went carnivore, like this past summer, it was blazing hot and was stuck home with COVID-19. Decided to dig up my backyard and put new sprinklers in. It was 100 and whatever outside. It didn't bother me one bit. No
Wow.
sunscreen,
I'm
just
definitely less
sunglasses.
sensitive since I've gone carnivore. I've noticed that as well.
I kind of think Tucker Goodrich might be on to something. It might be the quality of the fats. So like the vegetable oils or seed oils
Mhm.
replace a lot of the what would naturally be, real cholesterol and animal fat in our tissues, and the byproducts of those when you're exposed to the sun just create more problems. So I know
Well,
there's a
and
couple arguments out there, but
you can't tell, but I went from white to off-white. I mean, I seriously think my skin changed because I was used to be like that sick looking pale, like super duper
Yeah.
duper pale. And now I'm just kind of like off-white. I love it.
Nice. Yeah, I'm back to sickly pale right now because there's no sun.
Yeah. I'm definitely missing the sun in Missouri.
Mhm.
Well, we're in late summer, so it's good down here. And I've been lying around in the sun for weeks. I don't know if you can see.
Wow.
Nice.
Jealous.
That's
Jealous
kind
tan
of
lines.
pretty much all over. Well, it's the lights in my studio that actually make me look sort of somewhat paler and pinker. But actually, I'm as brown as it's unbelievable.
Where are you located, Bart?
Nelson, which is pretty much right by the top of the South Island of New Zealand.
Oh.
Nelson is the sunshine capital of New Zealand. We get more sunshine hours than anybody else in the country.
Wow.
So it's the top place to be in terms of that. So I just thought I'd throw that in there. Yes, we're in midsummer, so while all of you are shivering and having power outages and all sorts of things going on, it's all good here. And you're welcome to come over if they ever open the borders again. And let anybody in at all.
awesome.
That would be awesome. We should definitely go visit Bart.
Yeah, like Pim and I will set up a ranch somewhere, and we'll have a carnivore retreat or something. There's actually a whole island about 20, 30 minutes drive from here that is for sale. It's a working farm with stock on it. It's mountainous, this island. It's about, I think it's 600 or 700 yards above sea level at the highest point. It's got pretty mature pine trees on it. It's actually got an orchard with macadamias even, for people that are into that kind of thing. And it's got sheep, it's got cattle. It's 1,600 hectares or something in one of the most gorgeous, amazing parts of the world you'd ever want to see. And we can have it collectively, actually, if we all put in a few dollars. It's actually currently for sale. Seriously,
Wow.
for sale currently for the mere price of the equivalent of $10 million US. So, who wants to start the bidding?
That's not even a house in Malibu with one.
Tom,
Yeah.
I might need a loan. I promise I'll pay you back.
Yeah. Or you can just have timeshare on the island, and there are 3 or 4 fairly substantial dwellings on the island as well that you can stay at or live at, depending on whether you're an owner or a timesharer. Or
How about the Hobbit Village? Is it for sale? Can we move it over there?
the Hobbit Village is just about gone now, Thomas. It's,
Oh.
that's in a place in the North Island, very near actually where I grew up, called Meta.
Meta?
Yeah, and what you see when you go there now is there are concrete shells where they built the Hobbit houses and did the woodwork and stuff on those, but that's all been ripped out after the production. So you just got concrete. It's like, it almost looks like a war zone, concrete bunkers, but lots of grass. So yeah, it's kind of.
Well, there goes that idea.
Man, that would be cool to have a carnivore island, though. That'd be
Carnivore
awesome.
Island.
Carnivore
Yeah.
Island.
Yeah.
I would love that.
People would get scared because they think it was called Cannibal Island. So no one would ever go there unless you were a carnivore.
Maybe we'll call it that just to stop people from coming.
There we go.
There you go.
Yeah,
Now
but if you want to
it's
look it up,
surrounded.
it's a place. It's a place called Pepin Island, Pepin. I think it's only a single P. And it's at a place called Cable Bay, very near Nelson.
Very near Nelson.
And or if you can't be bothered with that, if you look on my very fine YouTube channel, I think I did a video recently where Pim and I circumnavigated the Pepin Island in our kayak.
Nice.
Ooh, speaking of which, apropos of nothing, it's something I have to share. You know, Thomas, I told you about last year we were kayaking around Pepin Island, and I think probably maybe 6 foot shark breached and jumped about 20 feet away from the kayak.
I was gonna say
I was
surrounded by great whites.
Pim completely missed it. She was like, "Oh damn, I wanted to see it." And she heard the splash, obviously, but she was looking the other way. The other day, we were sat on the beach, and this is in town, the main beach in town. And I was just sat on the sand dunes about 40 yards from the waterline. And Pim's gone down with the 2 dogs, and she's going to have a swim. So she's on her back, floating around in the briny. She's maybe 15, 20 yards offshore in probably about 8 feet of water that she's swimming in at the time. 30 yards behind her, where she is in the water, a shark breached out of the water, turned on its back, big splash. Now this one it had to be a 12-footer.
Whoa.
We're talking serious shark here.
Wow.
And there was another bloke sat with his family about 10, 15 yards to the right of where I was sat. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and then he said, "Fucking big shark." Thanks, that's all the confirmation I needed. Jumped up, ran down. I was going, "Pim, Pim, big shark." And she's like, "What?" She didn't hear a thing, didn't see. The shark was 20 yards behind where she was swimming. And I go, "Get out of the water, shark!" And she's like, "Oh, God, I'm always missing the shark." Anyway, the complete aside, but I thought I'd share that with you. And anyway.
Oh, my Pim. I don't like that she was in danger.
No, anyway, and she was like, "What are you talking about? Shark?"
I was worried about
with the shark man. No, okay. Yeah. She didn't believe me until I dragged her up the beach to talk to the bloke that was sitting over there and said, "Ask him." Yeah. So,
Right. So, Janice, did you bring your best shark story?
You have some competition.
I live in Santa Cruz, but I don't have a good shark story.
I bet you have some other kind of stories living in Santa Cruz.
I do.
At the heart of the Emerald Triangle.
I get you. Yes, there are many of those kinds of stories.
So why don't you start at the beginning of your carnivore related story then? Maybe you can work a little shark into that.
Well, like Bella, I was a vegetarian. I'll just start out by saying I'm 42, so I'm almost 20 years
Me
old.
too.
Oh, nice. And so I was vegetarian kind of from my late 20s through my late 30s. I had a lot of health problems, headaches. I had IBS, basically all manner of issues, UTIs, chronic urinary tract infections. I had fungus all over my body. I would get hives after eating. I had horrific gas, really stinky feet, acne, you name it. But kind of the primary issue that I had was related to my gene pool. And my dad is obsessive compulsive. He has OCD. My mom's whole side, there were 6 kids, and they're all bipolar, basically. And then on my dad's side, his mom was paranoid schizophrenic and had a full frontal lobotomy and shock treatment. So basically, I have a very gnarly gene pool, lots of mental illness, and I suffered from a lot of depression and anxiety throughout my life. The whole time, basically. I mean, if you look back to my baby pictures, I was crying and looking really tragic in every baby picture, every kid picture. I was a formula baby, so I was kind of like carb fed from the beginning. Grew up on the standard American diet and eating Chinese food, lots of rice. And so by the time I did vegetarian, everything just kind of got worse. I was extremely emotional. I cried a lot. I slept a lot. I was very insulin sensitive. I ate like a lot of fiber, like a huge amount of fiber. I was constantly eating, all the things that you now know are terrible for you. So broccoli and kale and cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, juicing. Like Justin was asking Bella earlier, I had a lot of supplements because I was just like constantly researching. I was like doing yoga and really into health. And so I was paying a lot for like athletic greens and you name it. I've tried all of those different, like, subscribe to get a supplement kind of thing. And so I was just really messed up. I had fungus all over my body and kind of like head to toe disaster. And I was chronically extremely cold, like just so cold all the time. And so I now realize that I basically messed up my thyroid. I think I had chronic fatigue syndrome and like adrenal fatigue plus candida overgrowth. So that was about, like I said, I finished being a vegetarian in my late 30s. The reason I started eating meat again before going carnivore was because my partner had back surgery. And so he was recovering. So I was cooking for him. And one day I just broke down because I was making these amazing like chicken thighs and with soy sauce and onions. And it was just like, it smelled so good. And I was just like, I'm going to eat it. So I started eating it and then I just went crazy and started eating like pot roast and everything. Like I just went for it. And I felt better within a few days of eating meat.
Wow.
From being like completely having like lifeless, like just like I spent most of my life sleeping and crying to suddenly having energy again. So fast forward after that, I was trying to eat kind of like a balanced diet, right? Like I was still trying to eat high fiber. I was eating meat again, not much red meat. And then I was eating a lot of vegetables still, trying to do fiber. But I got to the point where my candida issues were so overwhelming that I ended up finding the Anti-Candida Diet. And literally like a month later, I read Jordan Peterson's book. And then I saw him on Joe Rogan and he talks for like 5 minutes about that, the red meat diet where he's just eating beef and salt and water. And I was kind of following Michaela Peterson's story and I was like, oh my gosh, I have all of these autoimmune issues. I've had this my whole life. I've been depressed and anxious. My therapist called it obsessive anxiety. I had that my whole life. And so I thought, well, that was my entry point is going, I want to not feel like that anymore. I don't want to be depressed. I don't want to be anxious. I had taken antidepressants and I just was like, I got to at least try something. Right. So I did, I told my partner, I said, let's just try this carnivore thing, like zero carb. I actually I found Bella and Emily on MeatRx. I saw your first early little videos and I was like, oh my gosh, look at they're like, they had issues and Bella's Asian and Emily was talking about mental health stuff. And so those were like my first little kernels before all of this kind of exploded bigger, And I was just like, I'm going to try it. And my boyfriend said, let's do it. Cause he's like, I've always told you, he says, kale, no, like hell no, because he hates vegetables. And so he, an immediate yes, right? He said, let's do it. So we started July 2019, and then I've been carnivore ever since. And then today with Raymond coached me, he's my coach from MeatRx. And so today is day 50 of ribeye only. So I have ribeye only.
Wow.
And water, and I feel like better than ever. And I did my 30-day with Bella's Babes. So I got to meet Bella. I was so excited. I'm all starstruck. But yeah, I mean, it was really, it was kind of I didn't have problems. I didn't have problems when I switched. I immediately took to meat, but because I was already eating meat by the time I took out the plants and the grains, then I didn't really have any issues. Everything just healed. And with ribeye, I've told Raymond a bunch of times already, but with ribeye only, it's like a whole new level. And I think I'm going to keep going indefinitely, because taking out the rest of the stuff, I want to be like Raymond. I want to be able to do the wide-legged splits and the one-arm push-up and the two-finger push-ups. And Raymond, for whatever reason, is always wearing either underwear or pajamas. And the thing that made me laugh is because when I was going to interview him, he knew I was going to interview him, and he was still wearing pajama bottoms for the demo. And I think
so
he got
true.
you to put some regular pants on just for your interview.
Nah.
That's our Raymond.
But then, and I sent the video to my mom, and he's like, "What?" She says, "Why is he wearing his pajamas?" I don't know.
Hey, when you got great abs, you can get away with anything.
Well, the last time he demoed it for us on a group meeting on MeatRx, he was in his underwear.
That's awesome.
Sorry, Raymond. I didn't mean to embarrass you, but I do think
Oh, this is we're all loving this so much. Don't worry about Raymond.
Because this has been, we know, we've been.
I didn't know it was a thing. I thought it just
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
Anyway, that's my story. And yeah, Raymond's my coach, and he's awesome. And I'm also super lucky because I've been on Bella's platform, and I've been like obsessed with her videos ever since I remember seeing her on MeatRx, and then I thought, oh, suddenly she had a channel or whatever you call it on YouTube, and I was just like following her religiously. So
Oh, I love you, Janice. Yeah, I have to say that Janice is literally the first Asian that I hung out with frequently, over Zoom. And by the way, Janice, your ribeye diet is blowing up in the SB gang. Like, all the ladies want to go on the ribeye diet, and they call it the Janice diet. And like, your progress photos are amazing. So congrats, day 50. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's an incredible story, Janice. Thanks so much for sharing. Especially, I can totally relate. I myself struggled with the anxiety, the obsessive compulsive disorder since I was little. Like, I remember my mom would tell me that I would go over to my friend's house and I was helping them clean and organize their drawers. Like, the parents loved me. My friends were like, it's kind of weird. Like, why don't we just go play outside? So yeah, I've had OCD for a long time, and carnivore is really the only thing that has provided. Keto to some degree, but carnivore really kind of took everything, like the edge. It felt like the edge came off when I was really nourishing my body on a carnivore diet.
I really relate to your story as well, Janice. I mean, the messed up gene pool, 100% here too as well. I am kind of curious, so as to when you started, like for me with my depression and anxiety, it came in like hours and days until I finally had a full day where I felt good. And then finally like a full week that I felt good. Did either of you notice something like that? Or did you notice that at all? It kind of came in like waves or stages, the mental health stuff, or was it almost more day and night, a little more instant with you?
for me, it was really, I would say I got to like 80-90% right away, where it was just like changing the fuel from carbs and vegetables and grains and all that. I just was like, my brain took to it like I'd been giving it the wrong fuel the whole time. So I felt dramatically better. But the ribeye, the fatty ribeye that Raymond, bless his heart, told me about, the untrimmed, ribeye from Costco. He also saved me about $8,000 a year. I calculated by telling me, eating that fatty meat and just leading with, I eat the fat first and then I eat the protein, and that has really, it's like I have a brand new brain now where I don't experience, like my thoughts are different. The thoughts that are generated from my brain are not worries, they're not fears and obsessions. That's not perfectionistic thinking. It's like the thoughts that come into my mind now are just like, so that took it to a next level where now I'm just like, I don't experience fear and anxiety and all of these things that I did before. And it's daily and it's sustained. And I wake up clear-headed and I'm decisive and I'm focused. I had ADHD as well. And I had, a lifetime of issues with executive function. I couldn't prioritize or sequence events. I was very indecisive, very insecure, very doubtful, very hesitant. And so it's like that to me, I think there's something to the fatty ribeye that just takes it to another level. So now it's consistent. That's why I would never, you would not see me wearing anything with the word confident in it for 40 years. I was like miserable, like crying and like pouting and everything, hiding out, crying in a corner. And so yeah, I don't know what, I'm not really answering your question, but I'm just saying, yes, it was an immediate fuel change going to carnivore, and then with ribeye and the fatty ribeye, it's like I can't even describe how much better I feel, and that I actually do feel confident, and I can say that, and it doesn't feel inauthentic to say that now. So
that's awesome.
I love that. I think it's so important, especially as a female, and to express the your confidence and feeling and how much better you feel with fat, because even working with clients, even if they believe like, yes, eat meat, it's not going to make me fat, there's still like choosing that fattier cut, going for the more fat. That fat is not going to make you fat. It's really a hard struggle. So I think it takes how much better you feel to convince yourself of that. But even just going for that, doing the challenge, like you said, of fatty ribeye for 50 days, like I like that you're shedding light on that, because many people will just go for the fillets, or, oh no, I don't want to get fat. And it's like, I'm telling you, there's so many other things that are going to be better with more fat.
Well, you're right. And especially being in my 40s, right? My mom had menopause early. She was already menopausal by 45.
Yeah, no, for the hormones, especially, even skin issues, as Bella was talking about too. Fat is so important.
And I know why my mom was early menopause, because I've shared on other videos, but we were on the Pritikin diet in the 80s. And that was basically high fiber, high carb, zero fat.
Oh my goodness.
All fat was considered bad. So not just saturated, but unsaturated fat was considered bad. And my parents were runners. And so they were carb fueled, and they literally tried to go with a zero fat diet. So that was what I was raised on, right? Is avoiding fat like the plague. And then that's how that set up my microbiome and my biochemistry all jacked.
I'm so happy that you trusted it and you went with it. Because being grown.
Raymond.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Hey, Raymond. It's true, especially growing up that way. I would expect you to do the complete opposite.
Yeah, well,
Raymond did it for me, so thank you, Raymond.
To be fair, this is from 20-year carnivores, the Anderson's protocol. All I was doing is copying them, and I knew that they were brilliant, okay, because I knew that Charlene did salmon for a whole year, so they tried certain things for a whole year.
Oh wow!
And there's a reason that they must have picked the untrimmed ribeye, no salt, 1 meal a day, and I was like, that was my target the whole time, but it was hard for me to give up that much at first. And I finally did. And I like the example of the unicorn story, because that's the only way it makes sense. So, on carnivore, there's some days that you'll wake up where you just, everything's right. Everything's connected. That lasts such a short amount of time. And I call that glimpsing of the unicorn. But you want to see it. You want to see that glimpse, and as time goes on, you start noticing that, yes, there is a unicorn out there, right? Well, the level that the ribeye only, the Anderson protocol put me at, is not only being able to see the unicorn, I could go up to pet it. That's how much of a level difference it is.
Wow.
And I know Janice can relate on that now.
That's what inspired the artwork.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Well, Sly did it for me, a MeatRx member. She's like, after I described it, she's like, I'm doing it for you. I'm like, okay. Next day, she had me this artwork. I was like, wow, this is great. So, yes.
It's
I
awesome. What I love about it is that, you know, because we try to talk to people like, hey, I eat meat and I feel so much better. And we can't even have a point of reference for people. They don't understand how good feels.
It's
And so
new baseline.
the unicorn example is perfect, because how can you explain what it's like to pet a unicorn? You can't. Like, people can't understand when they're sitting there, you know, eating.
Is that a euphemism, young lady? Is that a euphemism, petting the unicorn? Is that what you're talking about?
You can only dangle meat.
Bart, that was last week's video, Bart.
Yeah, well, none of the girls were here for last week, so it's just four blokes talking about being horny. It's a bit sad, really.
I want to get in a question for Bella and Janice before I forget. So I'm really curious what happens when you tell your parents, like Janice was saying her parents were runners, they did the Pritikin diet, and I wanted to say, didn't Nathan Pritikin die of cancer? I think he did. So what did your parents say? What did your doctors say? What did your therapist say? I mean, everybody here had some sort of sickness that resolved or drastically improved. So all we're dealing with medical professionals or therapists taking medications, going for therapies and stuff like that. So I want to know what kind of reaction you guys got when you guys went through these drastic improvements.
Okay, so I know Janice is gonna have a similar story to mine, but like with Asians, my mom is a tiger mom, so she super traditional, super freaking strict and overbearing, down to the diet too. Like when I was growing up, I just remember when it's time to go perform and go compete, she would limit my calories and control what I would eat just so I can fit into that dress and look my best, you know? So I grew up with that mentality that I have to eat to look thin. And if I have to restrict, I must. So when I told her I was going vegan to lose weight, you know, that was my main reason. She was obviously very confused and she kind of just scoffed, thinking that I would not persist. But I did it for 6 years and she was very upset, like super, super upset. But luckily, I moved off to New York City for college, so I didn't have to listen to her rants and stuff. But then I called her randomly and I was like, hey, mom, how do I make brisket? Because guess what? I'm eating meat again. I just told her like that. And she was over the moon, just so happy for me. She was like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. Yes, I'll share with you all of my recipes. And then I go visit her in China the next year and she realizes I'm only eating meat, no veggies at all. And then she's like, what is going on? Why are you not eating veggies? And the thing starts again. She's ranting and criticizing me and she's just never pleased. And then this year, like actually things are changing this year. She sees my YouTube channel, you know, and she sees like all of the amazing friends that I make and the success stories that I share with her. By the way, she has this recipe called the egg pudding, 蒸鸡蛋. And I share that in the carnivore community because it's 100% carnivore. It's just eggs, water turned into pudding, and it blew up. And I told my mom, hey, guess what? Everybody's making your egg pudding. And honestly, that was when she started changing. She was
That's
like,
awesome. I love it. I love it. I have had so many clients that have told me, hey, you know, have you tried the egg pudding from Steak and Butter Girl? So many clients. That's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, it's pretty big.
I love it. It's so good.
Yay. I'm glad you love it, Austin.
Yeah, and my dad tried it and he loves it.
Aw.
I do yolk only, but I absolutely love it.
Yay. Yeah, so she's kind of pretty half-half, you know, accepting but suspicious.
And did you discuss it with any of your doctors or therapists or anything? And
Yeah, so the last time I got my blood tested, I told my doctor before I did it that, hey, I'm on a keto diet. In fact, I'm only eating meat. I'm not sure if you're familiar. And he was very familiar with, keto diet blood test patterns. So when the results came back, he was very pleased. All the numbers were great. My cholesterol was great. My total cholesterol, obviously, it's going to be through the roof, but he understood. And my HDL was very high while my triglycerides were super low. And he told me it was the lowest he has seen. And he's vegan.
Really?
So
Amazing.
Yeah.
yeah. So he was an open-minded vegan doctor. So
Nice.
It's your duty to rescue him. It's your duty to bring him across to the dark side. So join us. We will complete your journey.
yeah.
Come
And
to
together
Carnivore
we will
Island.
win this. To Carnivore Island, the Pippin Island. Yes. Good.
All right, Janice, let's hear you and your back and forth with people in
Right,
your
so,
environment.
similar to Bella, my parents, because I was a vegetarian for so long, my parents hated that, right? They were always, my dad never really understood it. So we'd go out to some sort of family dinner and I'd say, well, Dad, I'm a vegetarian. And he'd say, okay, but you do eat chicken, right? And he would keep pushing chicken toward me, right? And I'd be like, no,
Right.
Dad, I'm a vegetarian, right? And so now when I started eating meat again, my mom was like, Bella's mom, like so happy. She's like, oh, this is great. You can eat family dinners again, all this stuff, right? But then when they found out that I wasn't eating any vegetables, because they're big on vegetables. Like my dad eats broccoli. They all eat broccoli every day. They eat cantaloupe every single day. My dad eats a banana and a glass of orange juice for he's 74 and he's been eating that for probably 50 years, the same breakfast, right? So now when I go to things, he's pushing, well, you all eat some of these vegetables, right? He keeps asking me like, no, Dad, I don't eat any vegetables, but you'll have some rice, right? And so they're very alarmed, right? And I know my brother and my parents, they all talk about me and they're concerned. They're like, and then they keep saying, well, you really should have a balanced diet, right? And so, but they think I'm weird, right? They just think I'm an extreme person because I went from vegetarian and now I'm carnivore, right?
Well, it might be true.
So yeah, so they're not happy about it, but they know that once I've made my mind up, kind of like Bella, I'm doing it. I'm just gonna do it. And they also see, I text my mom pictures of my core and stuff. I say, see, Mom, I'll be like flexing, and I'll be like,
Nice.
muscle, right? I'll send her a picture of my like calves and my thighs, and I say, see, Mom, I've got all this muscle because of being carnivore now, right? And she did make one comment. She says, back when you were a vegetarian, I was trying to eat more plant-based. She said, I used to be really cold all the time and I would feel really crummy. So she kind of, she's kind of picking up on how much she sees I'm a lot more stable. And so she likes that. She knows and now they call me for everything. I'm kind of like the person in the family that they call when they're all strung out to talk to about things, so that they kind of notice, right? They notice an increase in my confidence. So as far as the doctors, ironically, I also have a vegan doctor. I've been a doctor for like 20 years, right? And I remember she turned vegan vegetarian when I was already a vegetarian. And I had told her like, good for you, great job. Yeah. So now I basically just avoid her. I haven't told her anything. I haven't gotten any official tests. I don't care. But I told Raymond this, that I'm the wellness coordinator at work, ironically. So we host these biometric screenings where we bring nurses on site from Quest Diagnostics to come and do your biomarkers. And I never get mine done, right? I was already carnivore. And I remember back then I was drinking like buttered coffee. So it was like 7 a.m. and the nurse is like, well, let's just do yours. But I hadn't fasted. And so whatever reading she got was so high that she had never seen it before. She's like, I need to talk to my supervisor right now. So then they went over and they come over and they're like, I think you need to go to the hospital right now. And this was like a year ago, right? And I was just like, I'm good. But they gave me the little like pamphlet with my mark, that said it was in like the red zone. So it must have been my, my non-fasted cholesterol or something. But I literally had just pounded like 3 tablespoons of butter. So I just already then I was feeling so good. So I was like, oh, whatever. So I just don't tell my doctors. As long as I can avoid it and avoid the hospital, what do they need to know, right?
Yeah, sounds like you need a new one.
I mean, but like they say, it's like if you're healthy and you look healthy and you feel healthy, what do you need all those? I'm not a person who tests all those biomarkers.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't track my glucose or ketones or any of that stuff.
Yeah, no, working as a PA in the carnivore space, everyone's like, oh, it's really more so just tracking labs over time, which is just extra data, which I think is fun. But yeah, like you said, if you're not having symptoms, if you feel good, I mean, it's totally up to you whether you are followed by a provider or not. I'm just science nerd, so I like getting labs and I think to some degree clients like reassurance. But again, if you alluded to with the them looking at that lab going, oh my God, something's wrong, unless you know how to interpret those labs in the setting of a carnivore diet, then you're right. Like going to them, they're not going to be able to provide you good feedback. So that's also important. Even if you just find someone who is in the low carb space, or they know that your cholesterol is going to change because you're doing low carb, high fat, it's more useful. Otherwise, you could Google things and try and interpret them yourself. You're probably better off.
Right.
Saying that, and my paradigm has totally shifted on cholesterol. I mean, based on the research I've done, I know that cholesterol is protective. Absolutely. And my mom is always worrying about her cholesterol, and she never wants to go on a statin, but the doctor always says, she's skinny as a rail, and they always say, oh, you need to be on a statin. And so I always tell her, now I just send her any kind of Instagram thing that says why cholesterol is protective, because it's also mental, right? If she's afraid of having high cholesterol and afraid that it's damaging, I don't want her to think that way, because it's like, you should see it as protective. My grandpa had dementia, and it's like, no, you have high cholesterol, you should feel good about it, and it's going to protect your brain from decline. So I try to kind of like reverse engineer her thinking.
It's absolutely essential. It's just, where we get into trouble as far as the studies that have shown, the relation to heart disease is high levels of cholesterol in the setting of high carbohydrates as well. So, but in a low carb space, it's cholesterol is essential, just like you said.
Yeah. Those that want to get into cholesterol in some real depth from someone who has been involved as a scientist, doing science, undertaking research for more than 20 years, you do well to go and have a look at my YouTube channel. There is a playlist there. I think there's nearly 40 videos up there now in that playlist, and it's just called Cholesterol. Wow. Where I talk about cholesterol in real scientific depth over many, many hours. So if you want to give people a real crash course on how to actually interpret these studies, what they actually say, what they actually don't say, how important cholesterol really truly is, I would definitely warmly invite people to have a good look at that playlist.
Awesome. I'll definitely check that out.
Thank you, Bart.
Yeah. Also, just while I'm doing fact checking, because I can't help myself, I'm the watchdog, I have to fact check. Nathan Pritikin took his own life after receiving the medical advice that he had 2 forms of incurable leukemia superimposed one upon the other. And he made a decision to end his own life at that stage. So that's what happened with him. Just so that we have our facts absolutely straight.
Yeah. Thanks for looking that up, and we'll definitely have to put a link to your it's a video list, right, on cholesterol you were talking about.
Yeah, it's just a playlist on. God, I think there's well over 650 videos on my channel now. It's been around for quite some time.
So there will be a quiz on those videos in the next.
Absolutely. Week. There'll be an exam next week, boys and girls and boys. So I expect you all to get 100%. I just wanted to say, while the floor is open, but look, I can really relate to these stories as well. I had a long history of all manner of not just physical, digestive mainly, but also some quite serious mental health issues myself my entire life. Even 3 or 4 years ago, I could not imagine myself running a moderately successful YouTube channel, a very successful distribution business in the nutraceutical industry, and a relatively successful consultancy business as a coach in my own right as well. There's just no way. Like as recently as 10 years ago or so, I spent a year where I never left the house, not once in a year, literally almost hiding under the bed. And it's all about chronic systemic inflammation. That is the root cause of all of the stuff, all these mental health issues. It's been known for ages that the chronic systemic inflammation was behind the gluten intolerance I had, the Crohn's disease that I had, the diverticular disease that I had, the pancreatitis that I had, the hiatus hernias and I could go on all day. I had all of these things. I was basically nearly dead actually by the time I was in my mid-30s. I was not expected to make old bones at all, until I started to look into this and decide that obviously we've been had here, and the whole idea that you need to have a balanced diet is the most successful bit of spin doctory, the most successful bit of propaganda that I've heard in a long, long time. Because obviously, well, of course, why not? Balance is good. Balance is equated with justice and fairness and right and everything that's on the light side of the force, all that kind of stuff. So of course, why wouldn't you want balance? And it's not until you think about that, which most people never do, and you think about it and you go, well, hang on a minute. Every single animal you can think of has evolved in a specific ecological niche to consume a specific species appropriate diet for that species. Why would human beings be any different? And then you go to the nitrogen 15, nitrogen 14 isotope testing that's been done on skeletal remains of human beings, which they've found around the world of all ages up to and including 350,000 years old. And the nitrogen testing tells us what those people ate. Not a guess. We don't have to look at their teeth. We don't have to look at their jaws. We don't have to make all sorts of ridiculous reductionist statements like no canines, not a carnivore, or any of that kind of nonsense. We just do the test on the protein that we find in the skeletal remains of these human beings, and that tells us without any question. We do an isotope test, actual science, and that says, what did this human being eat when they lived? And the answer is meat and fat, with very small amounts of plant material, which were usually used for nutraceutical and or medicinal purpose as an occasional thing. The only time human beings ate any amount of plant material was a couple of weeks a year when there were some fruits and berries around. And that includes in equatorial zones as well. So this whole idea that this is some crazy, extreme, restrictive diet. No, we have got to get past that. We have got to get to the point where people understand thus science is settled.
All the science, hard science points.
The science is in. The hard science is in. The hard science has settled this question. How did human beings evolve? Well, they evolved over the last 350,000 years in our current speciation of Homo sapiens sapiens. And we evolved precisely because we took the niche of eating animals. That's what grew our brain. That's what grew our ability to communicate with each other and to cooperate and to build societies and to form ourselves into the species that we are now. Not to mention eating quite a few of the Neanderthals, I would imagine as well, probably helped with us being the dominant human species, well, the only remaining human species. Yeah. So there you go.
I mean, Neanderthals and the Neanderthals eating meat, and they kept finding these little osteolytes on their teeth that came from plants. Yep. They're like, why do they? And then they realized this plant had no nutritional value to Neanderthals or humans. They realized, oh, that was in the stomachs of the animals they were eating.
Yeah,
that was the only plants they were really eating were already in the stomachs of the animals. So.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. That's my 2 cents worth for today. Absolutely. Thus, science is settled. We are done with this discussion here now. Okay. There is absolutely no support whatsoever anywhere in the hardcore science for human beings eating any amount of plant material at all to speak of.
I love it.
Why would you eat your food's food?
So I kind of want to change it up a little bit. So the name has been thrown around a little bit, but the Steak and Butter Gang, and I actually have a special request, Bella. I've met a friend on Steak and Butter named Maris, and she would absolutely die if you gave her a shout out.
Aw, sure.
That's so sweet.
Hi, Maris. I love you. Sending you my love.
Awesome. She's going to love it when this gets posted.
Aww.
Yay.
I
can't wait till I have my own groupies.
So jumping off from that, do you want to explain and go into Steak and Butter? What inspired you to start the group? I'm in there. I believe Raymond's in there. I know Janice is in there. Tom, I don't know if you're there yet, but we'll get them in. Don't worry. We'll be there. Yeah, we'll terrorize it. Don't worry.
Sure, please do. Actually, I'm inviting Raymond to be a guest speaker / questionnaire star in the challenge. So I do like Zoom meetings for the challenge members. I call it like all in carnivore challenge because I want to support those who are interested in starting. They can be they don't have to be newbies, but we just do twice a week meetings where we hang out, talk about just like this, honestly, and we talk about our progress. But Raymond will be joining Friday to answer questions. I mean, you guys can all join, honestly, but I would love to invite like each of you separately to the future meetings. But Steak and Butter Gang is basically just a community of carnivores, meat lovers, carnivore curious people too. And it's off social media. So that's why I decided to do that, community on Mighty Networks. But I thought, there's a lot of vegans, haters, stuff like that on Instagram. And some people are just turned off by that. So it's literally a safe haven for people who just want to learn and be inspired.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you for go on there with you.
Oh, of course.
I think it's great just to create another sense of community around carnivore. It's awesome.
And creating that safe place, I think that's so important. Because I'm coming up on this week will be 2 years that I've been eating this way, and I'm still the odd man out. I'm still when I go to work, I'm the freak girl. I'm the crazy one, and it's not affecting me in that it's not like I need to stop eating this way. But can you imagine just starting out and you don't know that that this is the best thing for your body? So I love that you're creating a safe place like that for somebody in this community. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. Yeah, I hope you join.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yay. Okay.
Yeah, I love to see people building the community. I mean, that's really the most important thing we can do, right? It's just bringing people together and building places for people to communicate and enjoy. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but this video has been very, very fun for me. I've really enjoyed your company.
Same.
I'm really glad we got to do it. So I'd like to feel that that's part of it. So if we could do more of this on another platform, I'd be ecstatic.
For sure.
I'm all about it.
I'd also like to send out the invitation basically widely, not just to everybody here in this chat room today, but in general. I want to do more collaborative work. I want to do more videos on my channel, which is one of the longest standing carnivore channels on YouTube, I think, these days. And for what that's worth, it means I've got stickability, I guess. But I'd love to have each of you. I mean, some of you have already been on my channel in the past. Some of you have not. I'd love to have you all on, either individually or in a group at various times. The stories need to be told because at the end of the day, of course, as we are often reminded by herself from Chorley, that all we have here are anecdotes, of course. We don't have any real evidence of any kind, just anecdotes. And I'm not even going to bother doing the voice today because...
Yes,
Okay.
Bart,
Anecdotes. Oh, of course, anecdotes. Oh, Bart is wrong, this Bart. Bart's just got anecdotes. Bart. He's wrong, he is.
Bart's frequently harassed by a lady from Chorley who is some sort of vegan lady that just likes to harangue him.
Well, she calls herself an ethical vegan, Thomas. Ethical is what she calls herself.
There you go.
She calls herself an ethical vegan, and then what she will do is make deals with other YouTube creators like, for example, myself and Tristan, which she also had a deal with because she got herself in trouble with copyright with the YouTube folks. And she was on her second out of 3 strikes that you can have for copyright. When you get a third copyright strike, they delete your channel, basically, unless you're Richard Burgess, in which case you get it back 48 hours later because you've syndicated with a major channel and the major channel have turned around and said to YouTube, give him his channel back. But, you know, for most mere mortals, you break the rules 3 times, 3 strikes and you're out sort of thing. And she was on her second one. And both Tristan and I had our hooks right into it. And we were at the point where we could have had her 3 strikes and over. But we made deals with her as a human being. Like, okay, here are the videos that are of offense. Here is what we need you to take down off your channel. We'll take down stuff we've said about you that was not so nice as well, because, you know, we'll all be adults here about this. And I'm a man of my word. And if I look you in the eye and shake your hand and say, that's what it'll be, that's what I'm going to do. And then we do that and we remove the strikes from her and cancel them so that she can, you know, not have to worry about her future as a YouTube creator anymore, under this understanding that she's going to take down the offensive material. Less than 24 hours before she reneged on the deal. An ethical vegan she is. Good. Anyway, that's another complete aside. Apparently she's hung up a broom for a while because she's lost mojo or something, whatever that means. But yeah, that's for another day.
Well, please don't ever stop doing impersonations of her because it's my favorite. Thank you.
Okay. Right. I've got others as well, but we'll save those for another day as well, perhaps. Yeah. All right. So anyway, I'd love to have you all on the channel at some point. So I'll probably be flicking out emails in a bit. Anyway, Thomas, you should probably close us off.
Yep. All right. Well, I think it was another excellent video. I want to thank everybody for sharing. I'm sure it's going to help people out there. It's going to make people make their journey a little easier. And that's always a reward when you hear back from people who thank you for taking the time and stepping outside your comfort zone and sharing your story. It's a big deal. And that's the only reason I do these videos. So I want to thank you all. This was a magical little video. This is really the kind of stuff that makes it all worthwhile. So please, people, pass the links on to this video to people who might enjoy it or need it or benefit from it. Stay subscribed. Leave us comments. Let us know. Let us know what it meant to you. You can send all your complaints to Justin if you didn't like it. So anyways, until next time, eat some meat, feel better, and whatever you do,
don't fall down the carb hole.
That was dreadful.